Happy Saturday morning rant. It's Sunday morning, but y'all know how this shit goes. For people who don't know me, you won't really understand why I am in Savannah doing my rant this morning. And people who do know me will understand why, because half my life is social justice and nonprofits through GEM trainers, and the other half is social justice and the private sector through GEM real estate. And I started out in Savannah years ago. I bought a second home here in the middle of the city because when I came here to visit about 5.5, 6 years ago, learned a lot about Black history in Savannah and visited the historic district, and really was taken aback by the role that Black folks played here in Savannah, and yet was mostly caught off guard by the lack of Black folks living, particularly in the historic district. Of course, if you cross over Martin Luther King Boulevard, there's a lot of Black folks in the hood, but in the middle of the city, you don't see a lot of Black folks. And it just reminds me of where I live, New York City, where, like, you know, the closer you get to Midtown, the less Black folks live there. A bit more these days, but still, like, there's some places where it just costs so much to live that by the time Black folks catch up economically, like, literally it'll be hundreds of years from now, because they've just been so historically excluded from those places. And so Savannah has sort of the same thing going on. Like, honestly, the historic district is like a big rectangle, just like New York, and most people can't afford to live within that rectangle, and it happens to be the safest part of the city, the most beautiful part of the city, the most preserved part of the city, the part of the city with the most opportunities, and so on. And so I just literally was like, yo, I'm gonna buy a property right here in the middle of the city, and did that. And I remember the first day I bought it and was out on my balcony, and this white woman from next door saw me and was like, hey, are you Airbnb-ing? And I was like, no, I live here. And her face just dropped, which is exactly what I was looking for. That kind of worked for me. Anyway, since then, I've bought about 20-something properties here. So I feel really rooted in Savannah in a different way. And so I haven't been here in a couple of years, though, because I moved on to investing in other places. And then, again, people who really follow my story know I had a bumpy path over the last 2 years, trusted this formerly incarcerated guy who was advising me that turned out to be a real fucking snake, and cost me lots of money, hundreds of thousands of dollars. This guy named Jeremy Michael Head, which was sad because literally I worked on legislation that got him out of prison, and then I ended up being a victim of him. But whatever, you know, like, you got to sort of live out what you say you believe in, and the truth is I've just allowed him to walk for the most part. And it is what it is at this point, because the truth is karma, you know? Not just karma for him, like karma for me. Like, good things will come out of me trying to do something good with him. But I'm back now, so I haven't visited Savannah for almost 2 years because I was so stressed out about that situation and really couldn't see myself enjoying what I've built here while I was trying to avoid bankruptcy, essentially. But I'm out of it, and I'm back in the market, and I'm looking to buy again. And so yesterday I came and I was visiting some homes. Actually, I came the day before yesterday. I was visiting some homes, and I went into this one house that this owner was selling, and I asked the woman, you know, whenever there's a tenant there, you can really figure out what's going on. And look, I'm not, you know, I'm used to buying homes mostly from white men who live in other states, who own thousands of properties, and who are trying to offload the ones where they just absolutely refuse to make any investment. So I'm used to seeing homes that are in really bad shape. I'm not used to seeing homes that are in bad shape, that are occupied, where I get a chance to talk to the tenants who live there. And there was a tenant in one particular home that I visited, and it was fascinating because I had a chance to say to the tenant, and tenants will always tell you the truth. I was like, you know, what's not working here for you? And she was like, the HVAC doesn't work. So we don't get heat in the winter, we don't get cool in the summer. The HVAC system that you see outside is way too small. The owner knows it, and he refuses to do anything about it. And I have to walk on these really cold tile floors in the wintertime, and it's sweltering here in the summertime. And I felt she was 78 and blind. And I was just so taken aback by that, and reminded of how I've determined that there's a way to navigate the private sector and still try to do good, which is something I was taught is not possible when I was working in nonprofit for 17 years. And it's something I really, really fucking hate people for like all those years of believing that you can't do good and do well. It's bullshit. Especially because I've also learned that most of you work in the nonprofit sector don't make enough money and want to do better and want to find a private sector way of doing better, and just don't want to be criticized by your colleagues for being interested in being in the private sector, which I personally don't think there's anything wrong with that. I especially now don't give a fuck about what people think, because if there's anything I've learned is that if you stay in the nonprofit sector as a black or brown person or a poor white person, the minute people want you out, they're coming after your income. They're, depriving you of the opportunity to work in that space, and they're blacklisting you and blackballing you. And who the fuck wants to set themselves up for that? And so that's what got me into the private sector partially, was like, to make money, to have diverse income. And then I realized that you can, again, do good and do well. Then I visited a second home yesterday, and I walked in, and man, I swear to God, I wanted to just grab those kids and take them with me. It was just a really difficult situation. Looked like a single mother, and she looked like she wasn't paying enough attention to the kids. And when I walked through the home, I think I saw defecation on the floors. There was one little kid in the back room that was hiding under a blanket, and there was another kid that looked like he might have been, I don't know, on the spectrum, the way he was communicating. And it's really none of my business, and then it's all of my business. Like, I was just so fucking bothered by it. And I know that some of you out there listening is like, well, maybe you should call family services. And people who say shit like that don't really understand that government is like the worst fucking answer to any problem. And often government is the problem. So I'm not calling government on anybody. Definitely not calling government on black folks. And yes, it's a bad situation, but government would just make it worse. And I've increasingly become a person who believes that the less government is involved in your life, the better it is. And I'm not just saying that because I'm in the middle of my second IRS audit in the last 2 years. But I am saying that because I believe it. But I say all that to get me back to what I'm ranting about today, which is like, I think this whole idea of like working in nonprofit and people not making a whole lot of money is just such bullshit. Like, even when I have clients, like I choose my clients carefully at Gem Trainers, and at the same time, every once in a while, I have a client that'll put out a job description paying a person not minimum wage and shit like that. Like, I worked in nonprofit and made $16,000 a year once. You guys know that story. I won't tell it again. I'm traumatized by it. But like, paying people 50 grand a year, 45 grand a year, 52 grand a year, 54 grand a year. No, I will never pay anybody that. I mean, when I ran my own organization, which at this point, was a decade ago. But I've also ran projects inside of other organizations. I've never, ever, 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 ever in my fucking life thought it was okay to pay a person 40-something grand a year. And I've been in this game for 25 years. I just don't do it. People on the Gem Trainers team right now, everyone makes six figures. Some people make $200,000-$300,000 fucking dollars. Because what the fuck? Like, I don't even need that much money in my life. Like, people are like, oh, this nigga must be rich. I ain't rich like that, because like I want other people to feel good too. I want them to be compensated too. And even in my real estate don't make me rich. I don't care how much fucking properties I have. One day somebody will be rich off my real estate, but stop thinking that shit makes me rich. It don't make me rich, because there's shit that I do with my properties to make them habitable and so that people can be there with fucking human dignity. That means that I don't make the kind of money you think I should make. And yes, it's a first world problem. One day my children will inherit houses where they'll gain equity and they'll be just fucking fine. But real estate doesn't make me rich, and it doesn't make me rich because I realize that you can make a little bit of money, do well, live well, and take care of other people all at the same time. and not be fucking ashamed of it just because you work in nonprofit and people tell you that capitalism is the worst thing in the world. Maybe capitalism as its practice is the worst thing in the world, but the idea that, you know, you put your finger in your fucking ears and say, nothing to see here, nothing to see here, is the answer. The fuck out of here. That's why the criminal justice reform movement has failed so miserably in the last 6 or 7 years. Like, there's people out there who legitimately is like, yo, my neighborhood's a fucking mess. Drug use is off the fucking charts. People being unhoused is off the fucking charts. And then fucking a lot of progressives are just like, no, you're not seeing what you think you're seeing. How the fuck are you any different than fucking Donald Trump? Like, no, people are seeing what the fuck they're seeing. People are legitimately fucking scared and afraid and worried that, you know, the small amount of equity that they've amassed in their homes that's meant to be their life savings, because these days 401ks are a fucking joke, because they're worried about, like, your answer to it can't be nothing to see here. People who take their last bit of fucking money and start a small business. Everybody's like, oh yeah, black people, black-owned businesses. I support black-owned businesses. Well, guess what? Black-owned businesses in black neighborhoods also think about crime. Why the fuck is it wrong for people to be like, yo, there's crime in my neighborhood? Why is that some sort of problem? Why is it wrong for people to tell the truth? The problem is not whether there's crime or not. Like, people know when the fuck there's crime around. They're not fucking stupid. But what they might be against, and what you might think about playing into, is the response to crime that doesn't work. That, you know, pay attention to that, but don't fucking convince people that what they're fucking seeing is not what they're seeing. I swear to God, it's such a fucking weakness of the criminal justice reform movement that it is fucking littered with decision makers who are not willing to tell the truth about what people are living through and living in and living with in their communities, and that they can't understand how people could want safety and justice all at the same time. Those things are possible to do together. So that's what the fuck I got for y'all today. That people should be able to do good and do well, and I'm trying to make the case for that by literally living that shit out in my own personal life. I've heard from so many of you. I've trained so many of you to be real estate investors. I know at least 19, 20 of you that are actually doing real estate, doing well. Yes, you get your ass kicked every once in a while. I get my ass kicked. Just lost over $500,000 in real estate, and at the same time, you know, doing good, doing well, helping people, feeling good about myself, not feeling fucking ashamed, not living in the non-profit fucking shaming game, the toxic fucking shaming game, which is really not a shaming game. It's meant to keep control over your dumb ass. Like, if you only have one fucking line of income, then when I'm tired of you or I don't agree with you, I fucking get rid of you. Ask Gabriel Saya at Catal or Danielle Sored. Ask them what they did to get rid of me when they were ready. I'm not fucking stupid. I'll never fall for that shit again, and you shouldn't fall for it either. And that's not just if you're black or brown. That's whoever the fuck you are. If you really are doing the work from the right place and you want to be able to speak truth to power, because I see so many of you who I fucking adore, actually, but I think y'all are not really speaking full truth to power. You really not. And some of you I've talked to offline, so I know what you really feel. And others of you, I've just sort of watched your career. I got this fucking brain that allows me to pay attention to a million fucking things at one time. And I pay attention. I know who's who. I know who's doing what. I know who's being consistent. And I also know, you know what else? That some of you are fucking shrinking yourself and you're not being your full self, because you are living in the dynamics of nonprofit and you're so fucking scared of what it means to tell the full truth about what you actually believe in. You're the people I fucking really give a fuck about. And these rants, honestly, about you. Everyone else who's like, oh, I don't want to be on a rant. Like, I'm like, motherfucker, the only way you get on a rant is if you fucking do some shit that's subject you to being on a fucking rant. Like, this maybe is the nonprofit fucking page 6, and that's why you don't want to be here. But the only way you get here is if you're not doing the right thing. Because people who are doing the right thing, they know they're not going to end up on a fucking rant. And people come to me who feel like they're challenged by whether or not they're doing the right thing and how they can do things differently, and how, like, I and other members of the team can help demystify for them how they can do the right thing. But the rest of y'all, the snakes, some of y'all are fucking snakes. Some of y'all know you're not doing the right thing and you're not interested in doing the right thing. And, you know, life is fucking short. Life is so fucking, like, you're so obvious. Like, people see who you are. There's different kinds of people I've learned, particularly in the space that I'm in. I don't know the whole world, but I definitely know the nonprofit sector. And you got some people that will just tap dance and do and say anything to get funders to give them a little bit of money because they've never earned a decent salary. And they realize that if they just say, I'm a crackhead and life is better now and I'm doing good, people will give you money because it just gives them a box to check and assuages their guilt. That's the first kind of person. I have no love for that kind of person. I mean, I don't mean to be harsh, and it's not like I want to see them harmed or hurt, but I just have no kind of love for that kind of person who's willing to tap dance just to get some money in their own pocket. They're not worried about the movement, the people who are sitting in prison suffering, the people who are involved in the criminal justice system and have worse outcomes, and you're just worried about yourself. No love for those people, and those people run the gamut. It could be anywhere from a case manager to an executive director or even the founder of an organization. Y'all know who y'all are. I know who y'all are. So that's one type of person. Then you got this other type of people who are like working in nonprofit, doing the right thing, but really you're like like in someone else's shadow and shrinking yourself and not being your full self. And you know that there's a lot of potential there to get that person to come out of their shell and do the right thing. I just did an evaluation for someone in the field this morning, and I deliberately, you know, it's supposed to be confidential. I don't believe in confidential shit. Like, you can't tell people the truth to their face. Like, how's that leadership? Like, you should be able to tell people the truth to their face if you believe in them as leaders, and you shouldn't have to hide behind confidentiality. But anyway, it was a confidential evaluation. I made sure he knew it was me because I said people closest to the problem, closest to the solution. Like, hopefully he knows that's me. I know some of y'all don't, you thieving motherfuckers, but he does. And I just felt like I had to send a message to him that as much as I value him and appreciate him and admire him, that he's living in someone else's shadow and he's spending years doing it. And, you know, I don't say that to say like there's anything different about me, because the truth is I almost wasted 17 years of my fucking life believing in a lot of y'all, only to find out that the majority of y'all have no fucking courage. But so it's not like I think I'm some fucking a guru and understand this any better than y'all. But one thing I do know is that if I'm going to make mistakes in life, I'm going to not only learn from it, but I'm going to try to help people to avoid it. And so I was really direct with him, like, bro, like, be your full fucking self. Life is so fucking short. Be your full fucking self with all the risk and everything that comes with it. If there's one thing I can tell you in my fucking difficult ass life is that I've taken a shitload of fucking risk. And that even when things go wrong, even when I've been depressed, suicidal, marginalized, blacklisted, all the shit that came, like, the truth is that shit has strengthened me. I am stronger today than I have ever been, and my enemies know to stay away from me. I am way more powerful than I've ever been with a little bit of money from philanthropy, running an organization and all that bullshit. Like, y'all can live off the largest of my ideas. Y'all could feel good about spending the bounty of the things that I've created, the things I've brought to life. The truth is that the relationships that came out of those ideas are so much more powerful and valuable to me than any institution that I've ever built or helped build. And the truth is that that's just life. Life is like a series of fucking it up, learning your lessons, and then figuring out how to apply that not just to the rest of your life, but helping other people to avoid those difficult fucking mistakes. And I have been to prison in so many ways. I've been to prison the way people know it, traditional definition, and I've been to proverbial prisons that some of you have put me in. And the truth is, one thing I learned is when you're in those dark places, those are the best times, and to give you the motivation to learn how to do better and to move forward with your life differently. That's what I got for y'all today. That's a lot. As I'm sitting in beautiful fucking Savannah, there's so many things I could be doing. It's raining a little bit outside, but the weather goes off and on here, and I look forward to a sunnier afternoon and going to check out a bit more of the sights here. I've been here so many times. I haven't been here in 2 years, but I've been here many times. I've been around many times, and I never get enough of this place. It's just aesthetically one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen. And because I'm into real estate, and because this place is so beautifully informed by architects from all over the world, it's just so much to see. Oh, and one of my places is actually available for the rest of the month because someone who was supposed to stay there had pulled out at the last minute. So if one of my social justice people feel like you want to take a week or two away and you're willing to buy some tickets to Savannah, and if I like you, because I don't like some of y'all, but if I like you, I like most of you. I dig most of you. I like some of you. Anyway, I got a beautiful 2-bedroom apartment available. All you have to do is pay to get it cleaned. You can stay as long as you fucking want until the end of the month. Let me know, holler at me, DM me, whatever. Anyway, nothing but love for most of y'all. Have a great fucking rest of the weekend. Don't let anybody steal your fucking rainbow. And I'll see y'all next week. Peace.